All right, we are live. What's going on, fellow traders? Hope everybody had a blessed weekend. Let me get this tweeted out to everybody. Hold on a second. Da, 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 da. It has been tweeted. Good stuff. Yeah, so I'm really excited about this week. Big stuff happening here. Let's see. So we got down so far, right, on the ES. You can kind of see it on here. We got down. It was like 30. We're down like 40 points. Now we're only minus 20. So far so good. Let me check my sound here. Make sure everything's good there. Okay, looks acceptable. Um, Good stuff. So yeah. So basically, this is where we're at so far in the market, right? So the month's been interesting, right? It's almost gave us a hammer the other day, right? Where it was like starting to get bullish. It just shows how this high volatility market that we're in, right? The VIX is almost 20. Oh, the VIX futures are almost 20. And once it hits 25, like that's kind of like like a recent peak area. So we have these huge swings, right, in the market. Up one day we're up 50, then we're down 50. Friday we're down 75, right? Now everybody's like, oh no, the world's ending and all this stuff. I mean, it's like, guys, volatility is this high right now. I mean, so we'll see, what happens. I mean, but so far we haven't even tested the mid Bollinger Band on the monthly chart. Certainly haven't tested the lower Bollinger Band on the monthly chart, and then we definitely haven't tested the 50 moving average on the monthly chart. Okay, this thing is key. If you guys remember when we did our Dow theory discussion, right? Yeah, here, let's go here. Let's go back like 10 years on the monthly, right? So we did our Dow theory discussion, right? Wow, let's go farther than that. Let's just do 20 years. Go ahead. Let's do that. So you can see how this 50 moving average is key, right? Once price gets below it, right, it starts to get a little bit ugly, right? Especially here, push below the monthly cloud, right? Once it gets above it, things are okay again, right? Once it gets below it, things get really nasty, right? Once it gets back above it and tests it, then things look that beautiful, right? So, I mean, even here back in December when we had that big pullback, right? I mean, we got nowhere close, right? To the 50. Well, I mean, excuse me. We had the pull. I mean, we still had plenty of room for the 50 movement. We barely touched it here. Barely touched it. I mean, this is a key level to keep an eye on. Okay. I don't know if net price here. He loves the 50 movement average. On the monthly, the 50 movement average is key, right? So that just kind of is our bear bull market. Line in the sand, right? And look at this. We have this beautiful ascending cloud right here too. We're just kind of following the cloud up, right? Looking pretty good. So anyway, that's where everybody's freaking out, right? We're not even at the mid Bollinger Band on the monthly chart. So it is what it is. But the weekly chart, a little bit more sketchy, right? So we've been talking about this. Newsletter subscribers who got a newsletter this weekend, they can see here we've reaching an inflection point here in the weekly cloud, right? So I mean it's that kind of started here as we approached it, right? Because we come over this area and then suddenly, oh boy, wow, support just dropped. Right, so it's like as we could continue to drift higher and support drops lower, right? There's a bit of a gravity kind of effect right there. So we're starting to pull down there. But what I really like here is on the weekly chart is how nicely the cloud is moving up, right? In the for future. So really, really nice stuff there. I mean, so actually, I mean, if anything, the market is looking nice and bullish. This pullback is actually kind of helpful, even if we got down here, we got down to 2,700. I mean, I know it sounds nasty, but I mean that could really get the market kind of going again. So we'll see. There's a lot of manipulation going on, lots of tweets back and forth, lots of stuff happening. So, we just have to day trade and be tactical and until things start to smooth out a little bit. But so far, we had an inside week last week, right? So we're kind of there. I mean, look, even RSI, I mean, nowhere even close to like overbought or oversold on the weekly chart. So cool stuff there. Daily though, a little bit nasty, right? We had a nasty day on Friday. Okay. One of the key things, if you guys remember, I tweeted this out on Friday, publicly, that if we broke through this cloud here, there's a pretty good chance that we're going to fill this gap, right? Because we filled this gap first, right? Big move down here, push, broke, tail fail, right? We broke down below there, right? And then continue back down. And it's kind of interesting because, right, we never closed above like these minor pivot levels. We pushed above it, but never closed above it on the daily, right? So that showed relative weakness, lots of resistance. Look at that, upper shadow, upper shadow, upper shadow, upper shadow, right? So lots of resistance there. And then as soon as we did a tail fail right here, broke down, filled the gap, right? Tested the cloud right here, tried to bounce back up, got below this downward trend line, which we're now back below, right? And then, another gap fill right there. So, I mean, guys, we got a long way to go. And obviously now things move down faster than they move up, right? I mean, right here. So one's big move. And we have another gap right here, right? This 2750 area. So, I mean, it's a possibility. But you saw on the weekly chart one more time that 2750, is right here. Okay, so it's basically the lower Bollinger Band on the weekly chart, right? So even if we came down and we touched here, we could see a move. So anyway, very, very interesting stuff. So that's kind of the stuff that we're keeping an eye on. Here's a look just real quick at the price action from Friday. So let's see. These are the levels that positive trend subscribers get before every market day, and so this is the levels that we had here. It was actually really great, right? Because if you kind of look here, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the extended hours, even though there's really no extended hours for SPX. It kind of gives a nice line between days. So we gapped down on Friday, right? And then we had a nice move up. Look, we had a nice hammer right here at the prior day's low, right at the S1 level, right? So if we just kind of zoom out a little bit here, right? Just look at price action, right? Oh, there was the low. Okay, we gapped down, we tested that low, and then we got a hammer, right? And so a nice hammer there, and that was a good price level. Oh, I jumped far ahead, didn't I? Let's go. There we are. Okay, so nice price level here. We jumped. Zoom back in. Right, nice hammer right there. Nice push up. Tested the cloud. Uh-oh. Upper shadow at the cloud. Oh, no. What? Another shooting star right here, the inside shooting star at the cloud. Look at that. They give a sharp move down, then a sharp move back up. These are really, really fast moves. These are tough to trade with options, right? These are like you have to be a futures trader to really captures, or just trade the common shares, right? And so, and then it just kind of worked its way up. Look at that. Real strong. Looked like it wanted to get out of the cloud. Tagged out of the cloud. Look at that. Look at that upper shadow right there. Okay, now we're at the cloud. Uh-oh, it's trying to push down the cloud. Not doing it yet. And this is the key bar right here. This big red bar right here. This is the key one. Trump was tweeting during this one, right? The president was tweeting during this one. And so, saying some really nasty stuff about China. And look at that. That's a great bar to get in on the, on a break of that to the downside to get short, right? And look at that. It would have been perfect. Boom, right to the weekly pivot. Oh, try to bounce off the weekly pivot. No, down. Right, a bear flag right there, and then all the way back down to the S3 level. So I mean, you can just see this price here. Then we chopped around for a little bit, blah blah blah. Then couldn't hold these S3 levels right here. Couldn't hold the daily or the monthly. I believe that was the monthly. Yeah, was that a monthly S3? Yeah, it was an old S3. It's a long month. So anyway, test, retest, just a miss, and then back down in the close. And then they pushed it up right there. So anyway, more stuff over the weekend, right? The Hong Kong is getting. More violent protests, right? And this comes after like the United States talking bad about China and stuff like that. So it's so I'm not surprised to see us down a little bit, but anything could happen right between now and tomorrow morning. So we'll see, right? We've had down days. We've been down 50, then we've been up 50 the next day. So we just have to kind of see it and just day trade it, see what we got, right? Okay, so real quick, this is where we're at macro level. Okay. You guys can see here real quick what I do with the stochastic, and I know some of you guys do this. I think you use the Williams DI as well. But here, all I did is just took off the what is the fast portion of the stochastic fast, right? So like the K, and so here I'll show you. If you just go right here, actually you guys won't be able to say that. So I took off the fast K. Okay, and just left the fast D on here, just FYI. So it just kind of gives a nice smoothing effect here. You won't see the crossovers, but you see nice little pivots here on it and all that stuff, and that actually really helps. This is a great tool with the pitchfork, right, and also channels, right. So any geometric tool that you use, this is fantastic. So so here you can see this move here. Right, this got a nice little, kind of pivot right here, right at the top of the channel, right at the pitchfork upper midpoint line. Came down off of it. Oh, minor pivot right there at the, at the pitchfork median line, right, for a nice move up, right, and then off of resistance here, this congestion resistance level. Oh, another bottom right there. Oh, another top right there, right. So you can see how it just kind of works itself back and forth to these geometric levels. Very, very helpful to kind of give clues. Of course, it could get extended for a while, right? But here, just keep in mind this was not at a geometric level. It was at a reaction line, but didn't push through. So anyway, this is very effective with the pitchfork. So just wanted to show you that. Okay, and so that is, let me click this right here. What is going on? So that is the update of the market. So let me just maximize this right here. Okay, so today we're going to talk about, this week we're going to talk about trading systems. Okay, and so, the importance of having one. Okay, so I know lots of people, especially new traders, right? They kind of jump in and they just try a lot of things out and they lose a lot of money, right? And so it's hard, right? Because as new traders, what do we want to do? We want to make money, right? And so you enter, right? You start trading and you start doing this. Oh, let me just buy here, and then you make some money on one, and you're like, okay, this is great. I can do this all the time. and then the market pulls back on you on something, and you're like, oh, okay, how did that happen? Oh, I did it last time. Let me try it again. And you lose money again. It's like, oh boy, well, I know I could do it better. Let me just do a little bit more this time, and then it doesn't work again, and then you lose even more that time. You're like, oh, okay, wait a second, I got to learn something here, right? And then so we all do it. We've all been through it, and so it's just kind of one of those things. And then eventually you get to the point where it's like, okay, as long as you've been relatively safe with your capital, or had some sort of like capital management plan, right? Eventually you get to the point where it's like, I need to learn something, right? Or I need to study to figure something out, right? And you start picking up books and start learning and studying and all that stuff. And so one of the key things we learn over time, and we talked a lot about this in our options series, and one of those things is that is having a plan, right? And having a trading plan, right? Or a trading system that works for you, that is profitable, right? So this week we're just going to talk about a couple different systems, but really the one thing I want to talk about, and let's just, I'm just going to kind of write it down here real quick. I was going to do a PowerPoint, but I'll just write it down. So the first thing, right, we want to know with the trading plan is, is like, the win rate, right? So that's important, right? And so we want to know the win rate. And what else do we want to know? So we want to know, you want to know your batting average, right? So that's your win rate, right? You also want to know your Sharpe average, right? So you want to know like your, profit percent, right? Okay, so you want to know how much you make, on each trade, right? And then you want to know your average losses too, right? So your profit percent, but you also know average losses too. How much do you normally lose, right? Based on your system, right? And then from there, that's basically it. That's all you need to know. And then from there you can adjust your formula to see how much average capital you get. And it really helps to do this, right, with any sort of trading plan, because it keeps you honest, right? So it keeps you honest with yourself, and it's actually it's pretty enlightening, right? Because if you look at it and you find out that your win rate is only on a system that you've been doing, and that's the key with having a system, right? So in the beginning, we try all sorts of different things, but eventually we have to find a system that works for us, and we'll talk about that later this week. But we're just going to go through a couple different systems this week. So today we're going to talk real quick about the Darvas box, and but we want to know these things. We want to know our win rate is, we want to know our profit percentage, and our average losses. And so one of the ways to do that is once you figure out what system you like and what kind of meshes with your personality, is to go and back test it, right? To go and see how it worked over time, right? And so so today we're just going to talk real quick about Apple, right? And so if we find out what our win rate is, if we go back and to find that, if you've never traded the system before, at least look at it and see how much you would risk, right? Per a trade, and do it over time and back test it over time and see what it comes out to. So if it looks like your win rate is like, say 50%, but you average, right, your risk reward, right, is 1 to 2. Right, so your average loss and your average gain, right? So you normally, each one you trade, you make 2 points for every one that you risk, right? And then that one that you risk is when you take a loss, you take the one. Well, even 50% of the time, what does that equal to? So if you're at 50% win rate, right? So let's say you make 10 trades, right? And 5 of them are winners, and you make let's say 2 points each, and then 5 are losers. You make 1 point each. Right, well so 5 times 2 is what? So you make 10. So you make 10 points there, and you have 5 losers. You lose 5, right? So you net 10 points, okay? And that's basically all you have to figure out, right? So once you figure that out, right, and you have a system, and you net, I'm sorry, did I say net 10? I'm sorry, I meant net 5. Sorry, guys. Brain and hand and mouth weren't all working together. So anyway, so you net 5 points, right? So that's a good system, right? And then, so that's how you want to do it. So you want to go back and back test it and see how effective it is over time. And then once this is the case, then you can begin to trade it, right? But you have to stick to it. You have to stick to it, what the setups are, what the parameters are of your, of our, setup. So it's really, really key. And so if that's the case, then if you net 5 points, let's see, in 10 trades, you make 10 trades a week, then you net 5 points per week, right? Well, there you go. And if it works consistently over time, right, then you can evaluate. Then you have data, right? Then you get data points, right? You can develop a spreadsheet with it and figure out, what you can refine, right? What's, kind of what's happening, right? So that's, very, very interesting stuff, right? And if you do that all the time, you're profitable every week, and kind of going forward. So that's kind of the idea. Okay. So today I'm just going to introduce one system that is interesting. And the reason I wanted to bring it up is because it was based on the turtle trading that we talked about last week. And so, I think it's really interesting stuff. So this is the Darvas box, right? So this is what they did, right? They traded breakouts, right? And so you kind of want to find out what, what time frame that you want to trade on, right, and which one's going to be the most effective. And so here, just as an example, this week, if you're a day trader, right, usually I definitely don't encourage trading on the 1 minute chart based on candlesticks, right? You can do it to find like kind of bigger patterns, right? I mean, here, like for instance, you could be like, okay, this is kind of a rising wedge, whatever, you could kind of find these things, with that. If it breaks down, then I'll short it, that type of stuff. So that's good with the 1 minute chart. So you can kind of see the underlying things that are happening with the bigger candles. But for the most part, trading on the ones, trading candles off the ones is really, really dangerous, right? Because it can stop people out really, really quickly, and especially with options, right? So basically, I'm just gonna kind of just go through and show, but really, really cool stuff with Apple. I mean, one thing we could do is if you're a swing trader, you could do the daily chart, right? And so what the system would be is going back over time. So you'd want to go back, figure out how much you want to go. Let's just say 5 years, right? And see how effective the Darvas boxes were over time. Well, when we were in a bull market, they were really, really good, right? So I mean, for the most part, right? So what you do is you'd trade your breakouts, right? And then you'd move your stops out on the breakouts and then continue to go, right? And so you'd check those, right? So, okay, so if I swung this one over, a couple weeks, so if I entered here on the breakout, right? So I would get, enter here at like 102, right? Well, suddenly, it pushes up, right? Gets to the breakout here. Here's the entry of the breakout. Right, so it gets to 102, 106, 107, so you just have to figure out where your stops are, right, and where your risk was. Well, in this case, if your entry was here and your stop was below, right, if your entry was your breakout here and your stop was below the Darvas box here at 95, right, you're risking, 7 points, right, so your entry again was, here, say like 102, right, so 102, let's say it got all the way up to 110, so you're 7 points. So you basically have a 1-to-1 risk reward. So that's really risky, right, it's 1-to-1, right, so which means that it better work more often than 50%, because otherwise you're going to net zero, right? So 1-to-1 risk reward on trades, right, is a net zero proposition if you're at 50% win rate. So you have to adjust those things, right? You have to go back and figure out, what's going on, right? So if you're losing there, you have to figure out, is my win rate wrong, right? So so if your win rate is wrong, if you're losing, right, you either need to increase your win rate, you have to increase your profits, or decrease your losses, right? I mean, these are the kind of the things that we have to evaluate, right? So that's basically it. So these are the Darvas box here. Let's go back to Apple real quick, and that's the key, is going back and testing the systems over time, right? So with this system, we would test it here, right? And then you could also look to short too and break down and see how that works, right? So here, okay, well, if it fails to break to the upside, right, where's my stop? Well, if it stops here, then I'm out. And then if I'm out, then I'm going to short it, right? That is a 149, right, to 142. So, but here is 156, right? So it was almost a 1-to-1 risk reward there as well, right? So it's just one of those things you have to go back and test. So that's kind of a swing methodology, right? So one of these Darvas boxes here was from 314 to 54. So that's a 2-month Darvas box, right? That's a long time, and that's tough for us as day traders. So you have to find other systems. So you can go back and be like, okay, well, let me try the 15-minute time frame. Well, the 15-minute time frame is a little bit harder, right? Because we usually only get 1 or 2 boxes per day. So, and even if you're swinging these, it can be a little bit complicated, right? So really for day trading, with these Darvas boxes, if you go down to the 1 minute time frame, then you can start to back test it and kind of see. So this is just one example. This is from Friday, which was a pretty rough day, right, in the market. But look, if you had the Darvas box system here and you were confident in your setup, right, you'd have this box right here, right, possible move here, trade a breakout, right. Well, that would have stopped out, right. So that was one fail right there, right. This one went up, right. This actually broke. Right, so it's kind of a nice move. If it hit your profit potential, you could have taken profit right there. Oh, it broke down the Darvas box. You could short if it hit your profit potential right there. So it makes up for your loss here, right? So just continue to trade the Darvas box, right? Trades a breakout here. Okay, hasn't hit my profit potential yet, but I'm going to go ahead and wait to see if it breaks up. It did break up. Boom, that's a huge move, right? Because here this was a 110 to 111, but this was because this break here was a 110. Almost to 111-ish, but then it popped up here and got to 112. So now, and then stops are moved up. So now you've made 2 points on that move. Okay, here it breaks to the downside. Okay, fails, comes back up. You get stopped out. Here it breaks down out of the Darvas box here, right? and then you get short, and then that's a huge win, right? And so that affects your averages, that affects your average win rates and all that stuff. But as you trade these boxes, so it's just a system, right? It's just a system. This is just one example of it. So we're going to go through some other examples this week, and we're going to talk about the nuances that come up there. But you have to be committed to the system, whatever it is. And so it's obviously very recommended that you go back and test it. Now, trading the 1 minute chart with options, right? It's not going to happen, right? So if you want to do that, you'd have to look at the option chart, right? So if we go to the option chart right here, you just like, and it'd be so hard because you'd have to have it pulled. Well, actually, you could do it. You could pull it, for the day. Let's say you're just going to trade, the 210 calls and the 210 puts, right? So you could have them both up, right? So you'd have like, Apple 082, 0.823 calls. Let's say like 210s right there, and you could have one up and just trade the calls, right? And so here's the beginning of the day. Okay, so didn't do anything right here. Oh, it broke this Darvas box here. Well, that's pretty good. 97 cents all the way up to 168, right? So there you got profit right there. Then as it's breaking down this box, then you can switch to the puts, right? Take a look at that. But as you can see, right, this becomes a lot more complex, as the as you shorten your time frames, right? So you have to be very, very, conscious of what's going on in each one. But here, this is great, right? 68 cents, and it goes to $5, and that's a huge trade. Oh, here it breaks out again, $5.50. Oh, it goes to $6.50, right? And then stops are raised and all that stuff, and then it continued its way up, actually hit $8. But that very unusual day for that. But these are just different system ideas, right? That we take a look at. So we'll go through those. We'll go through a couple different ideas this week and kind of take a look at the nuances. But it's important to go back and determine those things. So anyway. Hope you guys found that helpful. At this point, if anybody has any questions or chart requests, please feel free to plug those into the chat window, and we'll get through as many as we can. Let me go also, and just so we have it here for the record, Shirley has also emailed me some stocks tonight to take a look at, and you'll see they're mostly precious metals, which is pretty cool. So that's a list of things to look at as well. So. Surely you just need to create another Gmail account, and then you can log in, and then when you post stuff, just post it just like I just did, and you'll be fine. So anyway, good stuff. Akshay, what's happening? Good evening, Julian. Happy Sunday, man. Tomorrow, new day. Let's do this. Eric, how's it going? Good to see you. Good evening. NetFry, what's happening? INTL, not INTC, INTL. Okay. I'll take a look at that. That's fine. Intel. What am I missing on this? Okay, cool. All right. This is what you want, NetFire, right? Intel, not INTC, right? Okay. I was just scrolling down. I was like, let me double check this. Okay. Well, I don't know. It seems a little weird, NetFire. I was like, what are you into, man? This FC Stone stuff. All right, give it a second here. It's crashing here. I did up my memory. For some reason, the memory allocation reset itself on Thinkorswim. So hopefully I'll get less, stall outs and stuff like that on it. So I'm just going to use more virtual memory for it. Okay, that's what I figured. Intel. So cool. Yeah, good stuff. Huge. The month obviously is just, putrid. Wow, bearish and we're going to see so many bearish stuff here kind of going into this week, but bearish engulfing week, right? Pretty nasty. So, if it did want to, if it really pushed on, through the weekly chart, we could see it down to 43. Big push down on Friday, it gapped down and went, right? So it's under the cloud, right? All the Bollinger Bands are pointing down, right? And then we have the, 5-minute chart obviously is nasty here, of course. But here, let's take a look. Let's see what we've got. And where is my volume profile? I need to pull that up, don't I? Oh, no, it's on this one. Oh, I forgot to do. I was resetting my charts here. Edit studies. Let me just click that real quick. On expansion, new.